you so much for taking time to speak with me about Now You See Me, Now You Don't.
Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be here, Matt.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is one of those just pure fun and entertaining types of films that, you know, there's a proven formula with the first two films that, you know, have entertained audiences at this point. For you coming in, this is your first directed entry in the franchise. Was the appeal just an opportunity to work with Eisenberg again, who you've collaborated with before, or was it way much more than that?
There's a lot of things that drew me to being a part of Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Two of the most prominent reasons were Jesse Eisenberg and Woody Harrelson, because this is my fourth movie with each of them.
I was going to say, Zombieland Reunion, yeah.
Yeah, Zombieland 1 and 2, and then Jesse and I did 30 Minutes or Less, and Woody was in Venom. So I've been working with them my entire career, and all I want to do is just work with people I really like and who I respect and who are talented. And so it was a thrill to work with them, and then also get to work with some other actors that I've admired for a long time, like Dave Franco and Isla Fisher, and obviously the legendary Morgan Freeman. It was kind of a dream come true to work with an actor like that. But beyond the cast, I approach this movie as a fan of the franchise, and I really do love these movies. I love magic. I happen to be a big magic nerd. I go to more magic shows than I care to admit, and so getting to bring some real life magic onto the big screen was a very exciting proposition.
And so much so that I understand that if there's another entry in the future, you're already attached. Am I correct?
Yeah, we're working on the story for a new movie, and it will ultimately depend on audiences to see if we're lucky enough to get to make another one. But if this movie should prove successful and that there's a desire to see the Horsemen go on some more adventures, I'd be happy to provide that.
Yeah, and one of the exciting elements of this one in particular is that you have this combination of existing cast, many of whom you said you've already worked with, and then a new up-and-coming cast of exciting young talent as well, particularly Dominic Sessa, who's still very early in his movie career. You have Ariana Greenblatt, and then you also have Justice Smith here. And I have to imagine like that dynamic of the young generation with the older generation must have been a lot of fun on set with riffing on the screenplay and discovering new ideas.
Yeah, there was a funny kind of parallel of life imitating art, because we had these three young magicians who have idolized the Horsemen in the story of the movie, but they're being played by three young actors who grew up watching the likes of Morgan Freeman and Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, and the rest of the cast their entire lives. So there was this funny parallel of the young meets the more established generation. And yeah, we had loads of fun on set. I love comedy. I love improvisation. Jesse and Woody are two of the best to do it. And it was exciting to cast people who I felt could bring something to the table. And two of the biggest laughs in the movie, I got to give credit to Dominic Sessa, because he improvised two of the biggest laughs in the film, which one, he makes a comment about Atlas's dad that always gets a big laugh, and Dom came up with that on set. And then there's another moment where he refers to Rosamund character as Sparkles, and seems to also get a big laugh. So I was really impressed by their comic abilities as well as their just, acting talent.
And speaking of Rosamund, she's having a complete ball here playing Veronica Vanderburg. Can you tell me a bit about how the two of you collaborated to develop her character?
I've been a huge fan of Rosamund's since I first saw her on screen. I mean, she's so captivating, obviously incredibly beautiful, but she's also so smart. And I think all of her characters possess a native intelligence that make her very intimidating. So when it came to casting Veronica Vanderburg in our movie, I wanted somebody who possessed those similar traits of being obviously brilliant, but also somewhat diabolical. Mm-hmm. And every character that Rosamund plays, she manages to make delicious somehow. And so I couldn't wait to see what she did. One of the biggest challenges for her and her character is that she's a South African diamond magnate. And so Rosamund had to study and perfect that accent, which is one of the most challenging accents in the world. And it's very distinctive. And she's so committed to the craft that she learned it pitch perfect. And when South Africans see the movie, they honestly can't believe that she was able to execute it so perfectly. But yeah, I think in terms of the collaboration, I really just wanted Rosamund to have fun.
Yeah.
Like the nature of these films, as you said, is fun. They're escapist entertainment. I don't think anybody takes themselves too seriously in these movies, which is a good thing. And so I just wanted her to provide a really fun, juicy villain.
Yeah. You're no stranger to working with large scale budgets within the studio system. You've obviously directed a number of films that have operated on that level before, but every film presents some unique challenges here and there. What would you say was the biggest one that you encountered with Now You See Me, Now You Don't?
This was the first sequel I did that wasn't my own creation. So stepping into a world that someone else had built was, unfamiliar for me, but also an exciting challenge because I was a big fan of the franchise. So I could approach it as a fan and imagine what would I want to see in a third installment. And Now You See Me. I'd never filmed in Budapest before, which was a great experience, but also whenever you're working abroad and collaborating with filmmakers that are international, we had over 50 countries represented in our crew. And so it really felt like this, international collaboration, which was exciting. But I think the biggest challenge was just wanting to not disappoint the fans, because there is an expectation, there's a love of these movies. And I wanted to make sure that if we're going to do another one, that it wasn't a disappointment and that we kind of at least met the bar, if not raised it.
Yeah. I remember running into Eisenberg multiple times during the award season run for A Real Pain, and he would tell me something like really crazy, like, I got to be on a flight tomorrow back to Abu Dhabi, and then I'm coming back like a couple days later for this. And I have to imagine that must have been like also logistically challenging, particularly for him. But I know all the time when you're dealing with large casts, schedules sometimes overlap. You only have a certain actor for a certain number of days. But here you've got, a lot of people to juggle with. So I imagine that was definitely the case. But what was it from your perspective with Eisenberg having to have his head in like multiple places at once?
Jesse is one of the most impressive actors I've ever worked with. We started together in Zombieland when he had only been in a few small indie films prior to that. So I think Zombieland was his first studio movie. And soon after that, he went and got nominated for an Academy Award for Social Network. So he kind of, went on this meteoric rise, and I was lucky enough to continue to work with him throughout the process. But it was especially exciting on this film because I had a fellow director on set right beside me. And, it offered, I think, a unique perspective because he had obviously been in these movies before, but now he was looking at them through a different lens, and that was the lens of a director. And he'll say it himself, the movies he makes are much smaller and more personal. I think he was really into the spectacle of everything we were doing and was excited by all the toys that we had, that only a sort of big budget movie like this allows. And so I think it was fun to watch him appreciating the production from the perspective of a director and not just an actor.
One of the things I'm always constantly surprised by with heist films in general is, as a filmmaker, you need to know how much information to convey to the audience so that this way, when they look back on how something was done, it all kind of clicks and makes sense. But you don't want to tip your hand too much and reveal so much that it ruins the surprise element of what it is that we're watching unfold. So can you just tell me a bit about like crafting some of these sequences where you have these reveals, if you will? And do you have to like test them? Is it done like through the scripting stage? Like, how does that all come together?
Yeah, it's tricky when you're designing, a big reveal in a film. You want to give enough information that it doesn't seem just completely random or unsatisfying. But at the same time, you don't want to tip your card so much that you've given away the trick. So it was helpful that we had all these magic consultants because the construction of, a reveal, in our case, it was one based on the story versus the reveal of a magic trick is pretty similar. Like in the same way, you want to present something. If you're going to make it disappear, you need to know it was there in the first place. And so having these magic consultants help guide us was certainly instructive. And then we do, a process of testing movies and showing them to audiences. And I'll be honest, I don't think at any point did people feel like we had given away too much. But perhaps there were times when we needed to give a little bit more, just so that it felt as satisfying as possible.
Yeah.
And it's a line that you have to walk and a balance that you have to find only by doing. And I'll be honest that one of the most satisfying parts of the process for me was our first test screening when we played the movie and the big secret of the film is revealed. Mm-hmm. There was an audible gasp in the audience. So people were like, what? No way. So as a filmmaker sitting in that audience, I just was so pleased and proud that we had managed to pull one over on the audience. Cause I was thinking about The Sixth Sense and The Usual Suspects when we were designing this movie and wanting to play a trick on the audience. Mm-hmm. And so I was just so gratified that it feels like our trick had landed.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and you mentioned like some films there that like, as even for me as a fan, like those reveals are some of the best in cinematic history, So I totally get where you're coming from. Morgan Freeman has a very pivotal scene in this movie. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but I do want to ask, just at 88 years old, an on-screen legend, still somehow cranking out 2-3 films a year. I don't know how he does it. Just tell me a bit about like that day having him on set, or however many days it was, and what it was like for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, he really has this paternal grandfather quality, and I'm new to this franchise, but the other actors have been working with him, for a decade now and have close personal relationship. And he really is like a national treasure, I think, Morgan Freeman. And so I think everyone from cast to the crew, everybody on set just felt lucky every day that he was there, that we got to work with him. And he brings such gravitas to, everything, every role he plays, and really, I think, elevate our movie in a significant way. So for me, it was really a dream come true getting to work with him.
And then I guess my final question here, there's one scene in particular where all the characters are trapped in a glass case, I'll say. I don't want to reveal too much here, but can you just tell me logistically how you shoot something like that and still have it come across as safe for the performers?
Well, the scene you're referring to, there's kind of a death trap laid for the magicians that
like
we wanted
or something.
We wanted it to feel, or more like a Bond villain or something. How it remind me of, but it wanted to be like a mechanism of death that kind of felt like a magic trick gone wrong. And we devised this sand trap that then becomes a water trap. And I was really anxious about filming it because, it's often uncomfortable to be shooting in water, and, people get, just tired of being in water the whole time.
Yeah.
We heated the water to like 95 degrees. And so that box ended up being like this like sandy jacuzzi. And honestly, like it was tough to get them out of the water. Like they were so happy just floating around. So in between setups, I thought, oh, this is going to take forever. We're going to have to get them out, get them back in. But they were so happy, just like sitting there, like relaxing. And it was all very, very safe. There was no, like from moment one, I don't think anyone had any concerns. There was no threat of death. They could have gotten out, no problem. So no one had any real insecurities, and they were able just to enjoy it. And all the jeopardy was just acting.
Well, I hope audiences certainly enjoy this film as much as they did the previous two. Like you said, Ruben Fleischer, thank you so much for your time here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. Pleasure to talk to you.
Take care.
You too.